Hello, Internet. Welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the official mascot of the Sochi Games, Dave Rubin. I've got Jenn Hoffman and Gerald McCullouch with me, and we are going to get right to it. We're going to start with Bill Nye, the science guy Bill Nye. He debated creationist Ken Ham on MSNBC.com last night. I'm pretty sure you probably know who Bill Nye the Science Guy is, but if you don't know who Ken Ham is, he runs the Creation Museum, which is a $27 million museum based on the literal belief in the creation of the world as recounted in the Bible. Before we get to the debate, let's just show you a couple images from the Creation Museum because it is a piece of work. So what you're seeing here first is on the left, that's a Utah raptor, not a velociraptor from Jurassic Park. That's a Utah raptor. And on the right is Cain murdering Abel. They believe that these things happened at approximately the same time.
Look at the drama, too.
Such drama. What we have here on the left is a painting of the Grand Canyon after the flood, the biblical flood.
Which made the Grand Canyon.
Which they claim made the Grand Canyon, literally. On the right is a door from the Culture in Crisis exhibit. Because you know, if gay people have sex, then we get tornadoes and floods and things of that nature. Two more for you. The left, that's where Adam names the animals. And on the right is Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And of course, these are literal things that they believe happened in this museum.
Eve played by Demi Moore, is that correct?
That does look like a young, that looks like a young Demi Moore.
Eve was indeed a Kardashian.
And finally, on the fourth, this is Moses in the Biblical Authority exhibit on the left. And the right, again, is the Culture in Crisis exhibit. So you can see if you walk around with two giant tablets that tell you what the Ten Commandments are, you're not going to be killing people and shooting people and things like that.
Two giant tablets and a backpack.
Yeah, it's a lot to deal with. Just a couple other quick little things. So yes, they believe in this museum that humans coexisted with dinosaurs. So there's a chance that Jesus rode a velociraptor in Bethlehem. They believe that the biblical flood, as we said, created the Grand Canyon, and that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. Okay, we've set that up. So they debated creationism versus evolution. I think we know which side Bill Nye was on. Jen, I know you watched and you were tweeting up a storm. Part of me was thinking when they were doing this whole thing, and it was the #1 trend on Twitter, which I was actually happy about because it was like, wow, people are paying attention to science. But part of me was thinking, or not, or making fun of it. But partly I was thinking, you know, we're legitimizing something, we're putting them on equal footing.
Right, a lot of people
and
were
that's
complaining
a real
about that.
problem.
Yeah, a lot of people were complaining, saying that Bill Nye shouldn't have even debated him in the first place, because by debating him, he's acknowledging that creationism even exists and is a possibility somewhere in the realm of science. But that being said, there are real things at stake here. He's a teacher who's teaching creationism rather than evolution to his students. So Bill Nye obviously, I think, had a personal responsibility. He felt he had a personal responsibility to take on this debate, maybe in order to save science, in order to save it from other people that are kind of hijacking science or discrediting science around every corner. So I get the thing about it not being on even footing because one is kind of, I don't know, completely made up based on, something that may or may not exist, and the other is made on measurable science, as Bill Nye kept going back and proving again and again last night. But I think the debate was more culturally relevant than maybe scientifically relevant.
Well, I missed it, but didn't I hear that it wasn't really much of a debate, that there were more talking points that went back and forth, didn't really engage in a conversation?
It's a 21st century debate, which is not like a real old school debate where people genuinely debate. It's like you talk, then I talk, then you talk, then I talk. So unfortunately, you don't get like the real bounce back that you should.
I don't think they wanted to have that, nor do I think that would be appropriate. There's lots of different formats for a debate, and this was more of a presenting information kind of debate rather than exactly. It wasn't like they were trying to slug it out and in the end really crown a winner there. I think the problem with it is that first, you had him go and explain for about a half hour straight all these things that kind of just went in circles. So basically in the beginning, he was just like,
Mr. Ham?
Mr. Ham. So Mr. Ham went first, and he had, was it Mark? I always forget his first name. Ken Ham. So Ken Ham went first and kind of introduced himself and kind of did the "I'm from Australia, so you might not understand what I'm saying" thing, which was the worst version of the accent. Sorry, Australians. Sorry, Australians. Mate. And went on to kind of, just explain stuff without ever really backing science. Instead, he questioned the methodology. Instead, he questioned science overall. Instead, he didn't really present any sort of case for his side, rather than very small detractors from the other side.
Right. So do you guys think that people like this...
But hasn't that always been the case, though? They just choose to ignore science as opposed to come back with something that proves their beliefs.
Right. I mean, I think it was a lot of faulty arguments. He brought on some other people, video evidence of other scientists he knows that also happen to be Christians.
Right.
He brought on some other, evidence by saying when he teaches in a classroom, he teaches children observational science. So it was something that you can't observe. It was kind of like pictures or didn't happen type thing. Seriously, he was like, well, if you haven't observed it, then it couldn't have happened. Meanwhile, we have history in China and in other places that's been written and recorded for millions and millions of years. So that was obviously observed versus one book. And this is the thing I'll just say about the Bible. If he's using the Bible as his observational evidence, that's also very flawed because the Bible was written supposedly by over 40 different people over a span of 1,500 different years.
So
It was the telephone game for so many years.
Right.
Like, this is what happened, and you tell somebody, they tell somebody, and it always changes.
Right. So do you guys think there's any room for these things to exist together? Because it seems to me you can admit that you don't know how it all started, and you can say, well, maybe the Big Bang did it, but then what was before that, and the gases and all that kind of thing, and then still, so you'd have some belief in a higher power or something, but then still believe in science. It seems like we don't have any room for believing in both in America, right?
Well, I think, quantum physics, in a way, is that, and the fact that it's, like energy attracts like energy, and everything is energy, and energy doesn't dissipate. And I think that there's a religious feel, I believe, to quantum physics, but it's all based in science. I mean, that's kind of what I gravitate towards.
Sure. And also things we can't explain, sometimes we like to explain by just completely making things up because it makes us feel better, makes us feel good to feel like there's something higher than us or more important than us controlling it.
Yeah.
But I also believe in that sort of observational science that he was saying, people say, I had a feeling and I just know something was there. Whether it was the ghost of your dead grandmother, or whether you feel like you were just saved, the minute you just missed a car accident and you feel like, oh wow, I just know something was watching over me. I mean, as you're saying, that could be related to a quantum physics type energy thing we don't understand. And I think the point in my whole rambling thing right now is the ability to say, we don't understand, but we're going to try to use certain methods to try and understand it that fit within certain guidelines. So I feel like Bill Nye was going, look, and I think he ended it, he mentioned that a few times. He said, whatever we don't know, I'd like to learn, I'd like to be proven wrong. He's open to that.
Yeah.
Where I feel like on the creationism side, they're like, nope, this is the way it had to happen. We're not open to poking holes in our theory. We're not open to learning new things, and that's the problem.
Right, so isn't the real issue here is just the leap of faith that I guess every person either does make in their life or doesn't make in their life. You can either say, I'm going to question this whole thing, or there's a lot of things that I don't understand, I'm never going to understand, so I'm going to make this leap of faith and just believe in something that can't be proven, and that's the
But what do you do when there's evidence in front of you? Like Bill Nye brought he did bring
leap
some
over
physical,
it. That's what the leap is.
Of evidence. So basically, Bill Nye brought some, and especially because from Kentucky was even kind of almost more like an in your face, but he brought some Kentucky limestone, and he said, look, this limestone here, through the fossils in it and through what we can show through dating, is way older than 6,000 years. He said if the Earth was only 6,000 years old, as you say, then there's absolutely no way this could even exist. So then he brought the physical observational evidence.
Right, but isn't the point that evidence doesn't matter? If you're taking that leap of faith, then the evidence doesn't matter. You could say, well, I can carbon date this back a million years, but big damn whoop.
Yeah, if you just choose to ignore it. I think that there's a certain mentality of people that are willing to look at, base what they think off of questions and what they don't know versus people that just want to decide, like, this is what I know, I don't want to hear anything else, this is what I believe, I don't care what you think, I don't care what information you have in front of me, I'm just going to believe this.
Yeah.
It's safer for people sometimes, I think, to just be told what to believe and not question it and to go on that way. And it's a dangerous, wild world out there.
Yeah.
And you might be afraid that you're not going to be taken care of by a higher power if you start to believe in these crazy, weird scientific things, which is strange to me. Because believing in whatever your version of God is entirely and placing all your faith in that seems a lot less, like you have a lot less power and control and self-responsibility over yourself than believing in science. So I don't really understand that.
Well, I don't understand why we wake up to our belief in Santa Claus, but we don't wake up to our belief in something like that.
Right. Right.
As kids, you all, Santa Claus is real, and then you're like, oh,
and then
there's no way, there's no way that that's real.
Right, that's true. Right, like at 11, by 11, if you're not on board, like Santa's not real, like you're nuts. But somehow this thing, you're not nuts. So final thought on this. One thing that I did find very refreshing about it was that we actually were talking about science in America. It was the #1 trending thing on Twitter, as I said. Shouldn't we have a science guy on TV every night.
Absolutely.
Didn't that feel like it actually felt like it was removing a little pain from my head?
Didn't Nye used to have a science show?
He
Isn't that
did.
Yeah.
He
did,
did.
but
But
it
don't we
wasn't
need
like
a more
on-
mainstream place for it instead of all the
The
screaming?
closest we have is like a Dr. Oz or a Dr. Sanjay type person.
Yeah.
And their role, unfortunately, even though these people are both very smart, achieved men who are physicians and understand the human body, and they're not necessarily scientists, but that's the closest we have is the doctor with health and science. Is it instead it's how does it relate to you? You know, it's not just science. Let's think of it. They don't want to talk about stars and space and physics and math.
We don't have a
and
Carl
bore
Sagan
people on the
anymore.
internet. Exactly. We don't really have anybody who's kind of the mascot for science, unless you're going to like a deep cable channel, you know, and watching maybe Mythbusters. We don't have on our regular news a regular go-to person. We kind of like our news fast and easy, and sometimes science is not. It's not easy to explain science in a 60-minute bit, which is what a lot of our
Or 60
entertainment
second
is.
bit.
Right.
Well-
That's what I meant with 60 seconds.
Either way, it's not that easy. Yeah, finish us up here.
I'm a big advocate of PBS. I love PBS, and
Yeah.
PBS has some very articulate shows and information, but it's it's not Dallas and it's not CSI.
If people become more interested in science, we'll have more science segments because, again, the big networks are all, they pay attention to the advertisers. So if people say we'd like to hear more about science, we'll get more about science. There's no evil conspiracy to keep us from science. Maybe there's certain factions of conservatives that would like to keep us from that. But overall, it's really, if we say we want science and we start wanting science programs, we'll get it on television.
All right, well, I hope you want a little science, and we gave you a little science there. I'm pretty sure we solved that whole thing, so there you go. Okay, let's move on to Syria, because it's sort of been pushed away now that Iran has taken over the sort of bigger world stage picture at the moment. January actually marked the most amount of people killed in Syria in the entire conflict, 6,000 people. That brings the total up to 136,000 people.
Which is crazy.
Completely crazy. There's about 2 million people displaced in Syria already. And what I wanted to talk about was that, so John Kerry, who's our Secretary of State, obviously, he was quoted by Lindsey Graham, Senator Lindsey Graham, saying, bless you.
Thank you.
Saying, bless you, we are at a point now when we're going to have to change our strategy, talking about Syria. Then the State Department immediately backtracked on that and said that that's not true, that everything's okay now. Look, John Kerry was calling this guy Hitler. We almost went to war. Then they sort of said they were getting rid of the chemical weapons. It looks like maybe 5% are out. The killing is still going on. So I don't want to get into all the minutia of Syria because it's a lot of stuff. But what this was making me think, can anyone trust anything that America is doing anymore?
Nope.
Like, can we trust that either Kerry is making the right decisions, or even that we even hear remotely anything close to the truth?
Well, wasn't it a kind of a he said, she said thing? There was what McCain
It's what McCain and Lindsey Graham are saying.
said they heard versus a woman saying, no, I was in the room and this is what was said.
And she said that his words were also manipulated. So they took certain aspects of what he said and twisted it into what they wanted. Now
And then they reported
but let me
that.
ask you one thing. What is the big deal with Kerry saying what we're doing isn't working? We've been working on stuff with Syria since, they were established as a nation, I think, in 1947. Since 1947, we've helped stage coups in their country. We've actually, WikiLeaks has shown that we've sent them money. We've sent money to their government propaganda TV news network. We've sent them money. We've sent them equipment. We've sent everybody, not Syria, the government, but we've sent the rebels basically money and equipment and everything to fight with their own country. We're still doing it. There's proof through WikiLeaks. So if Kerry was like, you know what, this has been going on for, 60 years. Maybe we need to change our strategy. BFD. Who cares?
Right. Well, that's sort of my point. Is
Bananas,
whether
fruit, and daiquiri.
and daiquiri.
Big
Yeah.
freaking deal if somebody in America is finally going to actually admit that maybe we need to change strategy, maybe we need to stop playing world police, maybe we need to stop being involved in everything so much to try to control. I get that they're next to Israel. I get that they have interest in Russia. I understand that we're trying to protect ourselves through this, but maybe we need to just back off, and maybe we need to let people like John Kerry do what they're supposed to do, which is assess the situation and give their honest opinion.
And allow someone like John Kerry to either say, yes, we're on the right track, or no, we need to rethink where we're going.
So I'm on board what you're saying there, but to me it's like whether what John Kerry said behind closed doors was correctly quoted by Lindsey Graham or whether it was incorrectly quoted by Lindsey Graham. I feel like we don't trust our politicians and we don't trust our media and we don't trust the State Department. So when I read this article, I was like, I don't believe any of this.
I trust them as long as they say what we want them to say.
Ah, yes, the great, that's the rub, huh?
So I feel like I don't trust them either way. I think I understand exactly what you're saying. I feel like I could imagine that certain Republicans would want to manipulate what John Kerry said in order to, especially to take down the position of Hillary Clinton too. So this isn't really just about John Kerry. This is about the Democrats and how they're handling foreign policy. This is about saying that John Kerry wasn't in the right place, that Hillary Clinton didn't do her job, because it always will come down to her and the fear of her winning the election in 2016. Yeah. Then you have the media wanting to sensationalize a story, which is a small he said, she said, which should have been on page God knows what, but instead they're going to make it a big thing because it's like the soap opera of government. We have like Lindsey Graham and like John McCain. And
Lindsey Graham, are they sleeping together, Lindsey Graham and John McCain? Why are they always together?
Of the same opinion and kicking it together. They're very, I think they have the same opinion. You know, I was in Arizona for over 10 years, and John McCain's obviously very prevalent there, and he was a reasonable man, and I always really liked him, and I was probably going to vote for John McCain until he took Sarah Palin on as a running mate, and then lately it's just, I'm glad I didn't, because I don't know where this craziness is coming from.
And then he started dating Lindsey Graham, and then the whole thing went to shit. All right, so let's move away from the he said, she said, because I think we're kind of agreed we don't know what the truth is on that. So just a little bit about Syria. Have we just given them a green light to kill? But I was completely against going to war, but by not doing anything, and now maybe they're getting the chemical weapons out, and Russia's still arming Assad, and we're arming the rebels, and Iran's helping Assad, and it's like, have we just given them a license to just kill as many? 136,000 people. Is there anything that we?
But I don't think Syria is. I mean, I think because of our 24-hour news situation now, we're more aware of it. But I don't think Syria is something new. I think that things like this have been going on for a very, very, very long time.
Right. But is there anything we can do with this? Like, do they know that we're not going to do? They know we're not going to do anything. So then it just emboldens
We're talking
them,
out both sides of our mouth. Instead, we're saying, well, we support this government. Actually, we haven't. We've actually asked. There's a prime minister over there, right? We've asked him to step down. I think Obama officially has asked him to step down. They have a president Assad. I always forget it's a prime minister or president there. So we've asked the president there out loud to step down, and then kind of like passive aggressively funded things behind their back, funded basically, the stuff for the rebels in order to rise up, funded anti-government propaganda over there. So I think my whole point in this in the end is, if we are going to be doing stuff like that, I understand we can't tell everyone what we're doing. We have to kind of lie about military operations and we get in trouble. But why can't somebody who's in position in our government say we've been making mistakes and maybe we should try something new? Because as you said, we've been doing the same thing this isn't anything new. It's been going on for years and years, and similar things are happening with other countries.
Other countries, and has forever.
Yeah. Well, all right. So speaking of other countries and mistakes, the Sochi Olympics are starting on Friday. And I mean, already this is looking like a disaster, between obviously all the anti-gay stuff that everybody's hearing about, and the threat of terrorism, which every day they keep leaking new information that something may go down. And just last night I saw a report on NBC that the second people are getting off the plane in Sochi, when you turn your phone on, the hackers immediately have access to your entire phone. Now comes, they are killing all the stray dogs in Sochi as well. A pest control company, which has been killing dogs in Sochi for years because they have to have some sort of animal control, has told the AP that they have a contract to exterminate more animals during the Olympics because they don't want people getting bitten and I guess seeing stray animals on TV and things like that. We've got a quote from the general of the pest control firm. He said, "A dog ran into the fish stadium. We took it away. God forbid something like this happens at the actual opening ceremony. This would be a disgrace for the whole country." And now we have a quote also from a lawmaker in Sochi. "Taking the dogs off the street is Russia's responsibility to the international community, and their elimination is the quickest way to solve the problem." All right, so look, I'm a dog guy, so I immediately saw this story, and I don't want to see all these animals killed. And of course, all the gay stuff is horrible, and there's all kinds of other human rights problems there. So should we just not be surprised by this and all kinds of? And God knows what China was doing with dogs 4 years ago, or whatever it was. So yeah, exactly. So how much of a right do we even have to complain when countries have to supposedly do what they have to do to clean up the place?
Well, I mean, I think they're justified in the fact that this is a threat to the amount of tourists that are about to come into Sochi, and the problems that these rabie and non-rabie dogs could have, with kids, et cetera, and in the games, the different events. I don't know if and they're talking about saying they're going to build dog kennels.
Doggy heaven, doggy farm.
But they haven't done it. They haven't done anything.
This is Russia, man.
Yeah, they're killing the
Russia.
dogs.
They're killing the dogs. They haven't even denied it. And this company that was subcontracted out to do it has admitted openly that they're euthanizing the dogs. We don't know if they're shooting them. We don't know if they're gassing. We don't know what they're doing with these dogs. Look, I don't know if you've noticed, but you've seen all the reporters are starting to get there and arrive in Sochi. And if you've seen the reports of them coming in, people are saying it's a wreck. The hotels don't have running water. When they do, it's brown. Doorknobs are falling down. Some of the ceilings are caving in. And people have reported stray dogs running in and out of the hotel rooms. So obviously what we're seeing is Sochi does not have their act together. They're a country that I think really wanted to showcase and this, in front of the international community, how Russia is glorious. It was like, make benefit for glorious nation, show off Sochi and Russia. And I don't think they were prepared. So I think this is just another one of their hysterical scrambles to make Russia look better. It was like, round up all the dogs. And it is a legitimate concern. You don't want people getting bit. But obviously if your country is such to being close to a third world country in certain areas where it's overrun by packs of dogs, then maybe South Korea and was it Austria are probably like, are you kidding me? With them not getting the Olympics and us giving it to a country that was so ill prepared.
Right. So all right. So I don't want to make this all about the dogs, but should we have two separate Olympics? This is what I'm starting to think. We need to have an Olympics for the civilized nations that have basic human rights. Look, everyone does bad things, but basic human rights. You treat your women equally, you treat your gay people equally. This can be a small group of Olympics in that one. And then we can have...
Are we even in this?
Yeah, I'm not even sure, right, because you throw drone strikes in.
Just the cities.
Yeah, exactly, right. It would be small areas. It would be West Hollywood would have one, and right.
We over Paris.
Yeah, first Chelsea and Paris. And what's the gay section of Paris?
We just made this real gay.
Yeah, they got very good. But really, should we have? Have we gotten to a point in the world where everything is so interconnected that when they had the Olympics 100 years ago, you didn't know about everything necessarily that was going on in every country. Now we have everything Instagrammed and Vined, and it's like you can literally see all the human rights abuses. So do we have to have some list? Like, if you want to play with the adults, you have to have basic human rights, and I understand that this would exclude probably 60% of the country.
A lot of it. And also there would be a lot of discrepancies about what constituted human rights. Is it there are equal pay for men and women? Is it that you don't jail people without any recourse? And all of our legal systems and penal systems are so different in attitudes. And I think what this is all about is trying to say there is some sort of acceptance. And I think this is good because it's making people aware of the way people live in different countries. And Russians have different attitudes than Americans. And forget that, Americans have different attitudes than most of the world.
Yeah.
So maybe it's us, not them. Maybe we have a higher standard of living. We should be really grateful. Instead of going, oh, your streets are overrun with dogs and you're killing them, maybe be like, wow, you live in a country where you actually live in fear that packs of dogs might overtake your home. I mean, come on.
We live in a country that's sending drones halfway across the world and blowing up weddings. And
and that's why I think a lot of people then protest us by saying that you're not even sending your own people into war anymore. You're just sending drones in. And I think there's a lot of problems that the U.S. has that are completely different than any problems the rest of the world can relate to, and vice versa. So it'd be really difficult to come up with a bullet-pointed list of what we think are acceptable because we're very different culturally, even if we have very close proximity because of technology.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about something that we all have, no matter where you are in the world, and that is sugar. We've done a lot of stuff on dieting and health on the show, and we talked a lot about aspartame. But sugar, maybe Mike Bloomberg was right. A new study in the Journal of American Medical Association, JAMA, has said that sugar is doing more damage to our bodies than we originally thought. Added sugars, according to most experts, are far more harmful to our bodies than naturally occurring sugars. This is when you put a spoonful of sugar in something as opposed to eating an orange or something like that. The U.S. government hasn't issued a dietary limit for added sugars like it has for calories, fat, sodium, etc. That's why when you have a Coke and it has however much sugar in it, it's literally like 20 spoonfuls, and they're allowed to do that. And sugar is classified by the FDA as generally safe, which allows manufacturers to add unlimited amounts of any food. So it's interesting because America, we sort of got off sugar a couple of years ago, and everybody was doing the diet soda thing. And then in the last 2 years, diet soda has disappeared because of all the chemicals. Is this just obvious stuff that we should all know that you should not be adding sugar?
Yeah, and one can of soda is twice or 3 times as much as the sugar you should. 1 can of soda is twice or 3 times as much as sugar.
I mean,
you
I
should
think
have
it's
in a day.
literally like 20 spoonfuls of sugar. Let's not forget it's high fructose corn syrup, which I know we've talked about 1,000 times.
Which is why the FDA also is not coming out against it the way they do for fats and other things, because we put this corn syrup in so many different things.
Yes.
Our farmers are so involved in using corn instead of using regular sugar that if the FDA were to suddenly come out and say, look, sugar is bad for you, which it is, which has pretty much been proven in every single way, then you'd have a panic and farmers would lose money.
And the
this
corn
whole
industry is highly
agriculture industry.
subsidized.
Right,
Correct?
It's usually subsidized.
Highly subsidized.
Yeah.
So you have a problem there with both like the government saying that we support it by subsidizing it, and at the same time, if they say that it's bad for you, you'll have a mass panic in this country and no one to do themselves. But sugar makes you sick, it makes you fat, it makes people have headaches, it makes you tired. I mean, who doesn't know this by now?
Yeah. So what is the alternative to this? Because are you a sugar guy? If you had a Coke and a Diet Coke in front of you, what do you do?
I'm a non-soda guy.
Non-soda altogether.
I have
so
a doctor that said, you know, as far as people that are smoking, the things, drinking alcohol, that soda is probably the worst thing you can do for your body.
So as I said before, was Bloomberg right? I lived in New York City at the time during the ban. He wanted the big ban, and he was even pushing it literally as he was being pushed out of Gracie Mansion. But was he right?
Now, Bloomberg was absolutely wrong by making a sugar ban, because we live in the United States of America, and in America, people should be free to choose. I think the biggest problem is that people don't take personal responsibility for themselves, so everyone wants the FDA to ban something or the government to say something's not good for you. Look, we need to be presented with the information. So the FDA should be giving us clear information about what their studies have found and maybe help us with some guidelines, but it's not up to individual cities or people to ban things that aren't of immediate imminent danger. Instead, give us the info and let people decide.
Right, so I'm on board that, and that's
Unless
why
you're
I
at
was
the
against
Creation
it.
Museum. Then don't give me the information because I don't want to see it.
That is not what we're doing at the Creation Museum. But I'm on board that idea that we should have the freedom to do whatever we want. If you want to buy a big-ass soda at 7-Eleven, you should be allowed to. But isn't there partly an issue there that people are just sort of dumb? Not only people are kind of dumb, but they don't want to know what the truth is, and they're uneducated. And how would they even get the information? Like, yeah, they can teach you something in grade school about what the FDA is saying
You are
about.
what you eat. They taught us that years, and then that kind of evaporates from our knowledge.
Right, so that lasts till what, about 5th grade maybe?
Yeah.
And then
It could almost be Darwinian at this point. I'm so over it. At this point, I'm like, look, if people want to drink soda and be fat and be unhappy and be lazy and be depressed and then self-medicate themselves with all the pharmaceutical drugs to take care of all the problems they've caused by eating food that isn't good and not exercise, God bless you.
Oh, I like this theory.
I mean, I'm serious. I think it really is personal responsibility, and I do think there is a little bit of trouble with access to the information, and that's the problem, because when you have a lot of corporations kind of with vested interest in the media, and when you have lobbyists that are able to kind of get in the pockets of politicians, the access to information isn't as fair. So this is kind of not the point of this whole sugar thing, but if you get the money out of politics and kind of make sure that our media in some way at least has to say who they're owned and sponsored by, not stop saying anything, let the media say what they want, but make things a little bit more transparent. We'll have more informed people. So I think people are starting to be a little bit more aware, especially with the internet, although net neutrality went out the window. But I think
yeah, you gave me
I just
18.
died. You just killed me. Are you happy?
We're
You
talking
killed
about
me. I'm
sugar.
dead.
You gave me net neutrality, money out of politics.
But that's the thing. There's no simple answer to all this. And the reason why, after talking about it for a few minutes, I actually want to pass out or bang my head against the table.
You need some sugar, lady.
Is I know I can get me a Diet Coke. Is that there's no way to talk about this without talking about all the different factors that contribute into it. You can't even have a conversation with, is sugar bad for you and should we drink it, without knowing everything surrounded by the sugar culture in this country and why it continues.
Yeah. Well, I hope you are drinking water while you are watching this. That is the key. I actually just switched to reverse osmosis water this week. I don't even know really what it's good. It's very fresh. I don't know exactly.
Very
it's just,
waterish.
It's, well, I guess regular water is osmosis, and now I'm reversing it. And I go to like a place with a jug and they fill it up for a quarter. It's very, I guess that's.
White people, man.
I've been in LA for a year. I know white people. Is there anything worse? All right. Speaking of white people, Mark Zuckerberg, Mr. Facebook. You might have saw this last week. He is very white. He's extremely white. So he and two of his other billionaire co-founders of Facebook. You know how much they made on one day on Facebook last week? $4.5 billion. Yeah, $4.5 billion. So this is one day last week. Zuckerberg gained $3.2 billion himself, elevating his fortune to $27.4 billion. He added $12.4 billion to his net worth last year. Dustin Moskowitz, co-founder of Facebook, gained $940 million. He's the youngest billionaire on Earth. I like how we put on Earth there. Mars, a whole other situation. And at 29 years old, is 8 days younger than Zuckerberg. And Sheryl Sandberg, Facebook's COO, became one of the world's youngest female billionaires. Just a couple other numbers for you. Facebook rose 14.1%, the stock that is, to $61.08. And this followed quarterly results where the revenue rose 63% to $2.59 billion. Of course, Zuckerberg has donated a lot of money. He just donated $1 billion to Silicon Valley Communication Foundation. They're putting computers and things so they can watch us all the time and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Should we be angry at these people that not the 1%? We've talked a lot about it on the show that the 1% is something like $300,000. So it's not the 1%, but should we be a little annoyed at the, say, 0.0001%? The guys, the billions and billions.
And wasn't there someone that said that he has more wealth than anyone could know what to do in one lifetime? Wasn't there?
I'll say I said that because, what could you do with all that money? I mean, even if he does good stuff with all this money, I'm not besmirching the good name of Mark Zuckerberg, but even if he's doing good stuff with it, it's too much, right? Like, how do we decide what's too much?
I don't know.
Give me an answer. Answer
Well,
the entire economic system right now.
Like, oh, good God, we don't. I mean, people are able to make money. He wasn't some person. Look, you could say that he came from some sort of elite privilege. People can argue that just by saying that he was a white male attending an elite private school. He went to Harvard, But the thing is, look, he's a self-made person who had an incredible idea that he saw through from beginning to end, and then he got everybody in America, then everybody in the world on board, so he's being rewarded. And we can say, is the reward fair? Is a person who's trying to find a cure for cancer, or is someone teaching children, are they worth more than somebody who invented Facebook in this country and in this world? Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Everyone's on Facebook. It's something we all use. They've managed to mine all of our information and advertise to us, and they're doing a lot more things that are kind of creepy and weird in order to make this money. But that's kind of when you see that's when you see it get more involved. In order to go from something that makes millions and millions of dollars, you need to be invested into something that's kind of shifting the game or shifting people's perceptions or manipulating the people using your product, and that's where he's gone with it. So that's why he has all the money. So again, the only way to shut down somebody making a gazillion dollars is by people saying, I don't want to use Facebook anymore. But who else is going to regulate it? Like the government?
Right, and believe me, I'm on board that libertarian strain of like, he built it, like it's his, let him do it. But it seems to me we have such an income inequality thing right now, and Obama's making that, what he says is going to be like the last 3 years of his presidency and all that I feel like we're gonna start having riots on the streets when people really figure out
the meat cake situation.
Yeah.
Well, look, Zuckerberg represents what people want. The reason why people don't riot is the idea that someday they'll be part of the 1%.
Yeah.
The reason why most people aren't angry with the 1% is because in their head they imagine that it's only a few years or that one bright idea until they become part of it. So that's why.
Yeah. Doesn't the Facebook thing have to burst? Because we've also talked about that a lot here, that there is definitely a fatigue with this.
We all said it was going to burst when it went public, and now they're finding out all these new ways, because we're always on mobile now, and there's all these new ways of advertising, find out where you are and when you're there, and advertising specifically for you. That was, I think, why they got why their revenue went up so much, is their advertising dollars were huge because of the mobile content.
Right.
Well, they have Facebook Paper also now,
so
which
that came out the other day.
Now they have all the journalists knowing and all the big news companies knowing that they can kind of sort and sift through what Facebook decides to show to people. So now Facebook's controlling the information that a certain demographic of people receive. So Facebook has a lot of control.
Now that internet neutrality's gone, that'll also be the way the internet works.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about net neutrality. We did it last week, but that's a whole other thing. So do you think that the NSA stuff and the spying stuff and the privacy stuff maybe will sort of begin the ending of Facebook? That maybe we're finally getting to the point where we don't want to share everything and we feel like we don't know what we're sharing. So maybe
and who's seeing that information?
And who's seeing it and who's using it, and Facebook's close with the government and all kinds of stuff. So that maybe people will pull back and then ultimately get off Facebook.
I don't know, because we live in such a celebrity culture, and I think that Facebook is a way for your common person to become their own celebrity. They're able to post and show their life, and I think that the culture we live in kind of, I don't want to say dictates, but kind of feeds into that Facebook mentality and the Twitter mentality and the Instagram mentality of, look at me, look where I am, as opposed, and advertisers will always find that if our eyes are there, advertisers will go where the eyes are.
Yeah.
Remember that film, that independent film, A Day Without a Mexican? I think it was, or A Day Without Mexicans. Somebody made this great film where they were like, what if all the illegal immigrants and Mexicans doing that work just disappeared from Earth? Who would people rely on? Would it be like the apocalypse in California and other states that rely on it? I feel like they should do a movie like, A Day Without Facebook, and just watch everyone logs off of Facebook and see if the world just crumbles. I'm serious. I don't mean it in a joking way. Everyone wants to delete.
That's why I loved her.
Yeah.
Because her showed how isolated our world can become when we're all focused on, thinking we're connecting to everybody, but we're just stuck in this little isolated, insular world.
All right, well, maybe we can start a trend right here. I actually like that idea. Can we do a day with no social media? I will put down Twitter for a day if you guys are into it. Comment down below, and maybe we'll start a trend. What would the hashtag be?
No social media. I don't
That's
know.
so wordy. God, she's good. You should be in advertising. All right, we got one more for you. Let's talk about nightmares, because an interesting study came out at the University of Montreal. Scientists, bringing this full circle, because they look into things and give you evidence and proof of things. They found out that men and women actually have different nightmares and report different feelings and emotions during their dreams. Nightmares are very disturbing dreams in which the unpleasant visual imagery and emotions wake you. Bad dreams are very disturbing dreams which do not cause you to wake up. Fear appeared as the main emotion in 65% of nightmares and 45% of bad dreams, and almost half of all the disturbing dreams contain primary emotions other than fear, including anger, sadness, guilt, and frustration. Women's disturbing dreams tend to focus on social conflicts like friendships and romances gone wrong. Men more often reported sleep jarred by disasters, whether floods or swarms of bugs. Only 1.5% of the sampled nightmares and bad dreams involve themes of falling. I think people always think of the falling dream. Have you guys had the falling dream?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've all had it, but only 1.5%
And the flying
of
dream.
And you've had the flying one's good too. I've had that one.
Do you guys like flying in your dreams?
Yes,
I always feel like
do.
I can't land.
Me too.
Like I'm going. Yeah, like I'm leaving. Yeah.
You're the only person I know that never said this. I feel like we can psychologically talk about so many things.
Yeah. What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, I always just end up flying and I can't land or don't know how to control the flying.
Yeah,
and I'm not scared of I don't know,
I've always had a fear of helium, so maybe that.
There you go.
No,
Heliophobia?
So the disaster thing, like just in terms of our dreams themselves, do you have the disaster dreams and the world coming to an end?
I think that I take so much Ambien that my dreams have completely dissipated.
Yeah? But I thought Ambien makes you trip out like a zombie.
Makes me talk, I'm walking to sleep, redecorate my house, but I don't remember it.
Yeah.
So it's all fine. I think that, men and women, if dreams are kind of how we work through our daily problems, I think that we also have different responsibilities and see the world through different eyes, and I think that's going to affect our subconscious state of when we're sleeping.
Do you guys think we don't talk about our dreams enough? Because I do feel like it's the end. I can always tell if I have weird dreams, it's because I either was looking at my phone too late before I went to bed, which I'm trying not to do now so my brain can slow down, or it's of course giving you all this subconscious stuff that your mind is working through. But I feel like people don't talk. If someone comes up to you and it's like, let me tell you about this dream I had last night, you're like, oh, God, is there anything worse than that? But shouldn't we be talking about it more?
I mean, I like talking about it. I feel like I hear more women, obviously, than men do that. I feel like more women kind of disclose personal or, oh, you wouldn't believe what just happened to me type things anyway, and it's a generalization. But I hear lots of women be like, I had the craziest dream last night, more frequently and guys will say it.
Right.
But, maybe it is something we should be talking through just because sometimes talking things out loud help you negotiate it. Plus, dreams are fucking weird, man. So I just like hearing about them.
Do you guys have any reoccurring dreams? Anything that really has popped up
as an actor,
or I guess now you're on
have,
Ambien, this guy.
As an actor, you always have, not you always, but I often have dreams of forgetting what you're supposed to say, or all of a sudden they throw you in front of the camera and you've never read the script. But I always find it weird how sometimes throughout your day you'll experience something that'll trigger, oh my God, I just had this dream about this last night. And that's always so odd to me that you don't remember your dream sometimes until halfway through the day when you have an experience that triggers that dream, or this, I just thought about this, or.
Yeah, so are you saying dreams could be premonitions?
I don't know, maybe I'm coming back to that quantum physics quote I said earlier.
Wow, now we're really bringing it full circle. What about you? Any reoccurring?
Yes. So my biggest reoccurring is the flying. I would say about once a week I have a dream where I'm either in a flying situation or something that wouldn't be flying, like I'm in a chair chairlift for skiing, and all of a sudden the chairlift is gone, and then I'm flying. And instead of most people that I've talked about flying are like, yeah, I'm flying, this is so fun. Instead, my immediate concern is how do I get down, or how do I control the flying? Mostly how do I get down? And then I have a few other reoccurring ones. I have a weird apocalypse one where I'll be somewhere and we know the world is going to end, and my reaction is different in all of them. Sometimes it's calm, sometimes I'm very freaked out by it. I have a lot of reoccurring theme dreams, so when I have a different one, it's almost stranger to me.
Well, I can give you the most obvious reoccurring dream on the planet, which is my main one that I have probably once a week. I'm guest hosting The Daily Show, and it goes incredibly well, like perfect, but they forgot to turn the cameras on.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's like out of Comedy 101 or something,
Wow,
right?
Yeah, that would be like the most obvious, like you're afraid you're going to do something great and no one's going to see it and there's going to be no record of it. Or
Do you guys have the naked ones? I'll like be going through my day and I'll realize like I'm totally naked and no one said anything. Why hasn't anybody said anything that I'm?
I have never
that mean?
had
That means you're very
Really?
that means you're very free
Does
in
it?
yourself.
Or afraid you're exposing yourself too much. I don't
Maybe.
know.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone's dreams, I don't know what the deeper meaning of these things are, and obviously there's all these dream books and you can go see dream consultants, but usually if you think about your dream, you know how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much how you work it out. How does thinking about this or dreaming about this make me feel? Oh, do I feel bad about it? Okay, let's work on it. Do I feel good about it? Let's work towards that. It's not that much of a mystery there.
Yeah. So final thought on this and bringing it back to this study, I guess it shouldn't surprise us, right? That men and women have different dreams. We use different parts of our brains and all that kind of stuff. So does it not surprise you? Are you
I'm
on
not
board?
surprised
Do you
by
think
it.
you have female dreams sometimes?
I think I've had some female dreams sometimes. I don't know if I have them consistently.
Yeah.
These are
Are you having manly dreams every now and again?
Very masculine dreams. I do dream. I do dream more. I feel like about the stuff, the male stuff they're saying. I dream about disasters and things and more than I dream about people, except for my mother, and we won't get into that because then we'd never leave.
No, my God, we're never going to leave. But we do have to
Is that
go.
a nightmare or dream?
Yeah, is that a
I'm
nightmare?
not saying anything. She's probably going to watch this and be like, "What does that mean?"
No,
I'm
that means
not
it's
gonna
a
into
dream.
that.
It's a
Mom, I love
lovely,
you. Mom,
lovely-
or which camera is it? I'm looking
Go
dead in the
directly to
camera. Which
camera.
camera are we going in? This, which end am I at?
There you go.
Mom.
No, the other one.
Mom, I love you.
No, you're not.
Ah, see how it's not even on
Oh.
my camera? That's perfect. That's poetic.
All right, here we. Mom, I love you too. Okay, that's it. Gerald, you wanna?
Mom, I love you.
Wow, this is something, some show. All right, people. Jenn Hoffman, Gerald McCullouch, I thank them. Subscribe, it's right down below. Leave us some comments. Maybe we'll start this anti-social media day thing, and who knows? You never know what is possible. Okay, see you next week.